are headed up to New York to do an event for the DKMS. Maybe check out a little Billy Joel or Steely Dan over the weekend, as well as the Smithereens. We're watching the World Series take place in this unprecedented way with the Cubs and the Indians. And we're on bye, which means we can't lose this week, although the rumor is that the Ravens are a 3-point underdog this weekend based on all the injuries, if nothing else. This guy has seen a lot of things like and we haven't seen much like what we saw the other night, where a football game played well into the night, long past people on our side of the country were awake and playing to a weird touchdownless tie in Seattle and Arizona. And we go out to Seattle right now, bringing sports anchor from King 5. We welcome Paul Sylvia onto the program. Dude, you were, rumor is on the internet, you used to kick field goals at the collegiate level. They needed a few more of you maybe on Sunday night, right?
Yeah, man. I think even Arians joked about a high school kicker can make that kick. So, what do you do? Hauschka is normally money for the Seahawks, and for him to miss it so badly on that last kick, it was really just a whole head scratcher that night.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were Hauschka people around here. We were the original Hauschka bunch, and I remember him missing a field goal in Minnesota that kind of cost him his job around here. He's had a nice life there, right? I mean, look, it's been a nice life there if you're in Lime Green. I mean, I was up there last summer for a Mariners game, and the Seahawks sort of own the market, as they should. But, you start to hit the rocks a little bit. It's tough to have that sort of success and sustain it, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's the old cliche, these guys have a target on their back because, everybody's going to give them their best shot. But, as far as Hauschka goes, Pete Carroll loves him, and he has struggled. When they moved those extra points back, he's missed a few and had a couple blocked, and it's one of those strange things. But when the game's on the line, he's got to kick a 45-yarder, even a 50-yarder, you feel good about it, and you still do. It's just a really bizarre twist that he shanked that one.
Do you have some special thing being a kicker? I mean, seriously. I mean, I've befriended Matt Stover and other, punters and, the special teams guys. It is such a unique circumstance, right? And to come into the game and have it be on the line the way it is. We have a kicker here that, Paul, I've never experienced anything like it. I mean, Matt Stover was very automatic from 40 in. He was very shaky from 45 or 50 plus. We had a decade of that here. But this Justin Tucker thing, it's absurd, man. I mean, he comes out to kick a 52-yarder in the wind in New York last weekend, and you just feel like he's going to make it.
Well, some guys are, the best thing about a kicker, one of the best qualities you can have is a short-term memory. I mean, last week, Hauschka missed one. He also missed an extra point, and he had a kick blocked. And it's like, we had him on the program. I host the fifth quarter with Warren Moon after these games, and he was just smiling and enjoying it because, they had won the game over the Falcons, and, the best quality you can have as a kicker is just to quickly forget about the miss or the block or whatever else happened, the high snap, and just lock in on the next kick, and that's what he has the ability to do. Had he had to kick another kick, say he missed that 28-yarder, if he had to kick a 50-yarder 5 minutes later, you got faith in him because that's his mentality, and that's the mentality of a great kicker, short-term memory.
All right, so for the tie itself, and, that will measure itself out over the rest of the year, I think one thing's really apparent, and as I said, it's hard to win unless you're the Patriots, and I still think they're probably cheating in some way because that's just the way I think about Belichick at this point. But I'll say this, the Seahawks have been sort of ravaged. I mean, it feels like every time I put on a game, there's a guy who used to be on the Seahawks playing somewhere else making a bunch of money. Kind of reminds me of when the Ravens got sort of buzzarded, after their Super Bowl victories. That's just the way this league works, right? And part of Russell Wilson running around for his life is, well, he got a lot of the money, and we have the same situation here with Flacco and the afterglow of having a parade.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And you hit on that offensive line. I mean, Russell Okung went to Denver in the offseason because, the Seahawks just didn't want to pay him, and maybe they couldn't afford him. But when you look at the Hawks' offensive line, they're, as a unit, they are by far and away the lowest paid group in the entire NFL. I mean, by far and away. So they're starting to rethink about how they build that offensive line and talking about possibly trading for some veterans here in this last week before the trade deadline because, I mean, this team needs some help up front. Russell's running for his life. He's 80%. He's got a knee brace. He's got a bad ankle on the other leg. So they need to figure out a way to protect him so they can run this offense. But as far as getting pilfered, you're right. There are teams that get cut. There are players that get cut in training camp here on the last cut who will wind up playing for other teams because they say, there's so much quality on the Seahawks roster that, you've got to be extremely talented to crack it. And if you don't, but you're still a talented guy, there's a lot of guys that get cut that can easily play for other teams, and so that's what happens when you have the recent 5-year run of success these guys have had.
Well, I mean, they've managed to keep it together on the defensive side of the ball, right? I mean, I don't want to say it's as good as it's ever been, but it's the best that there is right now. And, they're the last team you think you're going to go in and score 24 points on.
Yeah, this is, every time this defense takes the field, that you can hang your hat on it. You know they're going to play well, and they were gassed. I mean, guys were taking IVs after that Arizona game, and Richard Sherman could barely make it out of the shower. He couldn't talk to the press afterwards. So they were drained. And you saw the blow up a week ago against the Falcons from Richard Sherman. These guys are very passionate about what they do. And I mean, one gives up one touchdown, that first touchdown of the 3 that they got in the third quarter against the Falcons. And he was livid because it shouldn't have happened. And that's how this whole defense plays. Their mentality is, they don't want to take their foot off the gas in the third and fourth quarter if they have a couple of touchdown lead. They just have an extreme passion about themselves, not to mention the talent they have at all positions. And Bobby Wagner in particular he's the catalyst of that defense, that middle linebacker spot. You saw him at 245 leap over the Cardinals center and make a block on a field goal. It's like, these guys are just a talented bunch, and Bobby's a freak.
Well, and then keeping that group together has been difficult and taxing for Carroll, especially, given where you were last year with Cam Chancellor, amongst other players. There's only so much money to go around, and there were a lot of quality players on that defense.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is they took care of these guys right out of the gate, and, it seems like 2 or 3 guys, or at least 2 guys, get paid every year. And Michael Bennett, God love him, the guy has been underpaid at his position for a couple of years now. He wants more money, but he won't hold out. And he jokes around because his wife's over there at the house saying, "You're not holding out for anything. You're making plenty of money." And so he basically jokes, "Yeah, my wife made me come to camp, and my wife made me come to practice." Because, that's the kind of mentality that you got to love about Michael Bennett. He's owed. He is underpaid severely, but he still grinds it out. His teammates appreciate it, and they all play for each other. So the defensive unit, you just can't say enough about them. And as you know, defense wins championships, especially there in Baltimore when you had Ray Lewis and those guys just pounding it for a few years. So you know how important the defense is to winning a title. These guys have that window. It's open for them, and it has been open for a few years now. There's just no telling when it's going to close. But right now, it's open for titles.
Yeah, I saw your
the big reason.
Middle linebacker throwing himself around out there. A little shades of 52 in the purple here. Paul Sylvie joining us here. He's a sports anchor at King 5 in Seattle in the land of the Emerald. Tell me the Russell Wilson story right now. You talk about the knee brace, you talk about mobility, you talk about a guy that has rushed for 2,500 yards the last 4 years, and this year has really been silenced, and that's part of his game that's missing. I think it's very obvious when you put it on that Marshawn Lynch is no longer there eating Skittles and avoiding the media and all that stuff and probably gaining 148 yards on any given Sunday. It's a different offense, and this isn't something that's going to get fixed this week or next week. I think they're on a challenging course here to try to win football games, at least last week, 9-6, and couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I think challenging is the best way to say it. I mentioned Russell and his immobility, his hampered mobility, I should say. He's only at 80% best. He'll fake it and act like he's fine, but he's not. He's got that knee brace on. That inhibits him a bit. So Russell aside, with his hampered mobility, it hurts both the passing and the running game because you're not fooling anybody. And then you've got your collection of running backs. No one has stood out. Christian Michael has had a couple of good games, but Thomas Rawls is still out a couple of weeks with his injury. So they're a little bit beat up and battered on that side of the ball at key positions, but they're going to have to figure out a way to get around this because they don't have the mobility that Russell has to run the read option. I mean, the zone read when Russell would go out there and fake it and have that option of running, that's not an option anymore, especially when you're playing the Cardinals when they know what you do inside and out. Every time he tried anything like that, they had him pinned. They're like, that's not going to work, fella. We've seen this before. So everybody's figuring out the zone read with Russell, and then so you got to rely on other parts of that offense, and they have to figure out a way to spread the wealth on offense and keep defenses guessing. And right now, they're not doing it.
A freaking tie, Paul Sylvie, a tie. I mean, I've seen some. We had a tie once here 20 years ago against the Eagles, and I don't even know what you say about that, but certainly many of the players, including Russell Wilson, pretty outspoken in saying, come on, man, we're playing football here. Let's figure it out. I've been joking all week they should have gone to penalty kicks, and I know in your part of the world, soccer's a big deal. I love soccer. I think we talked about it the last time that Copa was going on. I think it was the last time we did some radio together. But there are no penalty kicks in the NFL, and I guess college football has sort of found this bastardized sort of bingo-esque kind of way to decide these contests. I'm all for the play to the finish, but I wouldn't be that guy who had that kind of game on, let's say, a Sunday if you had to play Thursday football again, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. In a short week, that would be brutal, especially the way these guys just dragged themselves off the field the other night. But I would like to see them change it up. I don't think Russell's idea is the idea to do it, but I do like the way college players handle that overtime. I like that. I'm a fan of that. But it would be nice if they could figure out a way to find a winner. And really, this tie, people are just up in arms about it out here. It's like, it's going to be a couple of months, really, toward the end of the season before you see how this tie even plays out. Some of them just, by the end of the season, it's just a non-factor. So let's just see how it plays out when it comes to playoff seeding and possible winning the division.
Well, it's a good thing if you suck because you'll have one less loss than another wild card team would have. It's a really bad thing if you're winning the division because you have one less win than a team that you're competing to get a bye with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, they need to figure it out. They need to address it. They really do. And the thing is, we all know this. They're very rare, and that these ties, the overtimes rarely go the full 15. But when they do, they should have a way to decide it, and it would make it at least worthwhile for the East Coast viewer who's up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching this thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, though. I haven't heard anybody say anything that look, I think penalty kicks are the dumbest thing I could ever, especially when they decide like World Cups and stuff. It's one thing, I guess, for the MLS. No offense to the MLS, because I know all about the Legend of the Sounders. I know all that. I have friends in Portland who hate you guys, by the way, as well, because I know about that rivalry. And that's one of the games. It's on my bucket list. I'm going to attend one of those games because I've heard it's a real hoot. But I haven't heard anything in this sport that makes it better. And in soccer, I've always said, and I say this in hockey, pull the guys off the field, play 10 on 10, play 9 on 9. I don't know, but there's got to be some way to make it better than penalty kicks is to soccer or some goofy home run derby would be to baseball, right?
I agree. I've long been a fan of getting rid of the PKs in soccer for sure. And without turning this into a complete soccer conversation.
Well, let's have it. I mean, it's bye week, dude. What the hell you think we're going to talk about around here? Let's talk about issues. Right, penalty kicks aren't a big deal until the U.S. has to go to them in a game that matters, and then all of a sudden they become a big deal.
Well, these teams that love to play for the overtime and play for the PK and park the bus on defense so no one can score, that they're playing for PKs because they've got 6 or 7 skilled guys who can thread the needle and score on those kicks. So those teams favor going to PKs because they don't have to be big physical guys. They just have to be finesse guys that can put the ball where it has to be. So,
and we get lousy soccer for 65 minutes once they get a lead, right?
Right, exactly. So it's just one of those things where, when it comes to hockey, I'm with you. I'm a huge hockey fan. I love the fact that they drop a guy off and they have more ice, more space to skate, and more times, more scoring.
It's crazy exciting when that happens. When they play 3-on-3, it's crazy.
But let's face it, man. I mean, when was the last time in the NFL? 2014? I mean, it doesn't happen that much enough to really come up with some grand plan to settle the score at the end of the game. So why not just adapt what the college guys are doing? Who knows how long it would last, but come on. Getting the ball at the 25-yard line, you just go. And I think it's a great idea. Why not? I think it's a great idea. It's something the NFL can finally copy college football.
Paul Sylvie is an Emmy award-winning sports anchor, King 5 out in Seattle. We're talking some Seahawks. I want to ask you about Sherman and his sort of outspokenness. Look, I'm on the East Coast. I know you went to school in the Midwest. You've been out in the West for a long time. Far more liberal sort of everything in speech and the amount of people and where people are from and backgrounds and, the whole Pacific Rim and all that part of the world that lives in your part of the world. Sherman being an outspoken guy and Kaepernick, this whole sort of West Coast, we're going to kneel during the national anthem. I find it fascinating how it's perceived differently in different parts of the country. But Sherman is one of those guys that has been so outspoken for so long. I think the leaders look to guys like him to say, it's okay to speak your mind. It's okay to be whoever it is that you are. And the factions that fight back again, I think they're fighting an uphill battle because I don't think free speech is going to get taken out of football. I think it's going to get put more in by guys like Richard Sherman, quite frankly.
Yeah, Richard's him and Doug Baldwin, they've been very outspoken about this thing, but they're not as extreme as disrespecting the anthem. With Richard, it's always been all lives matter, and as soon as it happened with Kaepernick and he made that protest, Richard came right out and said, look, it's Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter. And he was a big proponent of that. And then he would come out, after certain situations, he comes out for his press conference on Wednesday usually, and he'll say, he won't even take questions. He'll give a speech about something that just happened as far as violence in America, and he will give the speech and he'll drop the mic and walk off. He won't take any questions. Doug Baldwin, same way. He did the same. He spoke Thursday that week and did his speech, did not take football questions, and walked off. So the players respect him.
But if that happened here, if that happened with the Ravens the day after tomorrow here, it probably wouldn't go so well. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. In Seattle and San Francisco, you can do that. There are places you can't do that. I'm just being honest with you,
I agree 100%. I don't know. You're right. Out here,
I would applaud it, but I don't think the media here at large, and I don't think the Ravens or the fan base here would applaud it. I guess that's my point.
No, you're right. Every part of the country is different, but man, oh man. I'm a Detroit guy, a Michigan guy. So when you come out here, and I've been out here for 25 years, it's like, it's complete liberal. You know exactly where everybody stands. And so when Richard comes out, God forbid anybody question what he had to say or question what Doug Baldwin had to say. And I will say this, both Stanford guys, well-educated, very well-spoken, good ideas. Doug Baldwin has great ideas. He's not just sitting there with, protesting. He's trying to come up with solutions. And as he said, a lot of guys will come out and run their mouths, but never do anything about it. They think just saying something is doing something, and it's not. And Baldwin's met with police officials here. He's met with government officials. He's out to make a difference and put his walk the talk.
Yeah, I had Ben Watson on a little earlier this week, and we talked a little bit about it too. He, of course, being an outspoken one as well. Hey, man, it's America in 2016. Everybody's got a Facebook page and an Instagram. We'll be following you out on Twitter. It's great having some football conversation. Man, the Mariners close, but never getting there, right? Really, right?
Hey, man, they still got some holes to fill on this team, and that's a discussion for another day. But God love these fans out here, man. They tease them, but I think they got the right manager in Scott Service, so we'll see what happens.
Hey, at least your manager didn't leave the best pitcher in his bullpen as the season evaporated. I know you guys had a hell of a cliffhanger when the interception happened, and I know the hangover of that. For Oriole fans here, we're still trying to figure out Buck Showalter. I'll tell you that. It's been like the Dallas TV series. It's left a little cliffhanger here for 6 months. I assure you that.
Yeah, but you guys are in the hunt, man. We don't even have any weapons. We're not even in the hunt.
We gave you Nelson Cruz. What more do you want? We gave Arrieta to the Cubs, and look what happened there, right?
He has been outstanding, no question. But
yeah.
We need some arms out here for sure.
Well, it's fun watching the World Series. I just wish we were in it. Paul, great having you on, man. Keep safe out there in Seattle. We'll see you soon, man.
All right, Nestor, thanks.
You got it. Paul Sylvie from King 5, Emmy Award-winning sports anchor, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Paul Sylvie. That's Silvi. He is the Bowling Green kicker picture from sometime in the 80s, if you check that out on Twitter. Always interesting to see what people put on their Twitter. He's got the Detroit Red Wings and his Bowling Green kicker stuff. I got to wake my Twitter up. That's what I need to do. Not just actions, it's words, it's images. The Buy a Toyota audio vault is there for you 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear anywhere you are. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox free of charge. Is powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, and still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. The morning newspaper is great, but it's not immediate. It comes 7 in the morning. If there's breaking news, that happens anytime. That happens right here on the WNST Tech Service. It's brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV. That's the Sunday Sports Voice, now heard on Thursdays from 3 until 5, and getting you ready for Thursday Night Football. We got World Series action. We got the Terps taking on Indiana, maybe becoming bowl eligible. We'll see out in Bloomington. I missed John Mellencamp last week. I'm a little bummed about that. Speaking of Bloomington, Indiana, a little rock and roll. I got to sneak a little more rock and roll conversation in here. Last but never least, we're Buffalo Wild Wings every Monday night. In Owings Mills, come on out, eat some wings, watch some football, win the limo courtesy of fully loaded transportation, as well as the best seat in the house and the $100 gift card. We do the Blazing Wing Eating Challenge at halftime. I've seen grown men cry. That's all I can say. I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I'm a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook and our YouTube. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.